Two small lives vanished from a quiet Nova Scotia yard, and suddenly a town, and then the whole country, was left asking the same impossible question. Where did Lily and Jack go? On the morning of May 2, 2025, 6-year-old Lily and 4-year-old Jack were reported missing from their home in Lansdowne Station. There were no broken locks, no signs of forced entry, just 2 empty beds and a pair of children who were not there. That absence opened an investigation that has stretched for months, pulled in hundreds of tips, and left more questions than answers. Before we get deeper, hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you catch every update. This case is changing, and keeping eyes on it matters. From the first call to police, the response was intense. The RCMP, local search and rescue volunteers, K-9 units, drones and helicopters all scanned the dense woods that ring the family's property. Volunteers formed grid searches that took them through thick brush, over drainage ditches and across muddy trails. Aircraft swept the treeline, specially trained dogs worked until dusk. Even with that scale of effort, the early hours produced frustratingly little. A few impressions in mud, snapshots of the surrounding landscape, and the first physical object that would become central to public conversation. A pink blanket family members later identified as belonging to Lily. The blanket was recovered down the road from the home, and later fragments were found in a trash bag at the end of the family driveway. Investigators seized the items for forensic testing, but the scene offered no obvious path to the children. When children disappear, people expect a clear villain. A stranger, a car seen idling at the curb, some definite sign of forced removal. That was not the case here. Instead, the best early description was silence. Silence where noise should have been, and the uncomfortable fact that the only confirmed view of the children in public was footage of them with family at a Dollarama the day before. No witness described a forcible entry, no neighbor reported an abductor running from the yard, and for a long stretch investigators publicly said they had no grounds to treat the case as clearly criminal. That uncertain ground allowed 1,000 theories to grow. Because official updates were measured and limited, public attention shifted quickly and decisively to the family. Parents in every missing child case naturally draw attention, but in this one that attention hardened into scrutiny. The children's mother, Malia, sometimes reported as Malehya in coverage, found herself the center of intense interest. When a recent statement from her was described by some online and in headlines as a confession, the reaction was immediate and explosive. Comments, conspiracy threads, late-night videos and heated debates about whether she had admitted involvement. It is vital to be clear. Investigators have not confirmed that her statements meet the legal definition of a criminal confession. Law enforcement has repeatedly urged the public to rely on evidence rather than speculation. Still, that nuance is often lost in the roar that follows a single charged word, and the community's grief quickly became tangled with accusation. The way the public processes a missing child case is shaped as much by emotion as by facts. A single word, confession, can function as a lens that distorts everything that came before. People want closure, and a confession seems to deliver it in a single stroke. But confessions can be complicated. Sometimes they are truthful admissions, sometimes they arrive under pressure, confusion or mental health strain, and sometimes they are strategically manipulated. Investigators follow a very different rulebook. For them, a statement, no matter how dramatic, must be checked against the physical record. Timestamps from surveillance, GPS trails, forensic traces, and corroborating witness statements. The RCMP's publicly released documents and court filings show exactly that careful process at work. Times requested from highway toll cameras, searches of local CCTV, banking and phone record requests, and polygraph tests administered to multiple family members. Those are the kinds of facts that can either support a claim or dismantle it. Public perception, however, is not governed by court filings. Social media conversations have amplified interpretations of the mother's words, the blanket, polygraph results, and every visible bruise in photographs. That viral energy has been both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, it has kept the story in the national eye, ensuring resources and interest remain high. On the other, it has created a haze of misinformation, accusations, and targeted harassment. Family members and neighbors report being overwhelmed, door knocks from strangers, drones hovering overhead, messages with hostile questions. The community's grief has been complicated by anger at the unknown truth, anger when official responses feel slow, and anger that fuels guesswork in comment threads. Amid the noise, investigators have been painstakingly methodical. Court filings show they sought access to cell phone location data, bank records, trail camera footage from the nearby toll booth, school bus video, and hundreds of hours of private camera footage within an 8-kilometer radius. They applied for judicial authorizations to seize material and devices and conducted polygraphs with several family members and associates. Police have described processing thousands of videos and photos and following up on hundreds of public tips. Those steps speak to the scale of work behind the headlines and to the caution investigators must exercise. A wrong turn in the investigative process risks wasting crucial time or damaging evidence. At the same time, the emotional reality of this case complicates interpretation of statements made by family members. Under extreme stress, people sometimes speak in ways that sound confusing or even incriminating. Memory blurs, time compresses, and someone's words can be shaped by fatigue or shock. That is why investigators repeatedly caution against equating a stressed or ambiguous utterance with a legal confession. Psychologists will tell you that grief and shock can mimic the behaviors outsiders read as guilt. That doesn't resolve public suspicion, but it does underscore the danger of rushing from headline to verdict. The forensic pieces already recovered, the blanket, an impression of a boot print, and small items seized from the property, matter because they are tangible. Forensic examination can check for DNA, fibers, soil chemistry, and other traces that either link people and places or rule them out. The police have said the blanket is being forensically examined. Lab results may take time, and those results will be weighed against video footage, phone data, and witness accounts. For example, one witness told investigators she saw children resembling Lily and Jack walking along Gairloch Road between 9:30 and 10 a.m. on the morning they were reported missing, accompanied by an older white woman and near a tan or gold sedan. That report, like every lead, has to be confirmed or eliminated through cross-checking. In other cases, a single verified detail, a timestamp that matches a confession, a fragment of clothing tied to a location, can change the course of an investigation overnight. Another persistent issue in the public conversation is the role of polygraph tests. The RCMP documents say several polygraphs were conducted and that initial tests of the parents and other family members indicated truthful answers. Polygraphs measure physiological responses and are not, on their own, definitive proof of innocence. Law enforcement often uses them as investigative tools to narrow down leads or rule out immediate concerns, but courts give them limited weight. The public often misreads a past polygraph as a categorical proof of truth. The reality is far more complex. Polygraphs are one data point in a much larger fabric of evidence. Beyond the immediate evidence, the case raises deeper, systemic questions. Some relatives and observers are asking if signs were missed, whether social services had previously been aware of family struggles, and what interventions might have been possible. Those questions are painful and require sober answers. If there were prior contacts with child welfare agencies or community supports, why did they not prevent this crisis? The release of warrant documents and court filings has offered glimpses into the investigator's process but has also left many redactions, deliberate omissions intended to protect an active investigation and the privacy of some individuals. The redactions, while necessary from a legal standpoint, leave a public still hungry for context. That hunger can turn into suspicion. It's important to name another truth. The scale and persistence of public engagement has ensured that the case stays in focus. Hundreds of volunteers have continued to search, community vigils have kept the children's faces in front of people, and a reward was announced to encourage anyone with actionable information to come forward. Every tip could be the one that opens a locked door. Every piece of footage might include a snippet no one noticed before. Community vigilance, when channeled responsibly through police tip lines rather than amateur sleuthing online, can produce real breakthroughs. Investigators repeatedly urge people to call in verifiable information rather than posting theories that can distract or mislead. At this stage, the most vital principle is patience balanced with urgency. Patience because good police work takes time. It requires careful corroboration, forensic confirmation, and legal authority to pursue digital and physical traces. Urgency because time is not an ally in missing person cases. Memories fade, physical traces degrade, and windows to locate people close quickly. That tension, patience in the lab, speed in the field, defines how the RCMP and searchers have continued to operate. As the investigation moves forward, the wider public must resist the pull of instant judgment. In cases like this, the rush to label a statement a confession or to assign blame based on incomplete information can do real harm. It can alienate witnesses, discourage quiet tips, and make already vulnerable family members the target of harassment. It can also, tragically, make it harder to find truth by obscuring the signals investigators need to follow. The responsible path is clear: respect victims, support legitimate investigative channels, and let professionals vet leads. Still, none of this relieves the ache people feel when 2 children remain missing. The empty beds, the unsent texts, the unplayed games. Those human details are what keep a community searching and what drive journalists and investigators to keep asking questions. Families in other parts of the country, strangers who saw a sketch or a stray photo, and neighbors who have been watching the RCMP command post since May are all part of a network of attention. That attention matters. It keeps the case alive beyond the slow churn of investigative work and pressures systems to follow every reasonable line of inquiry. The facts are this: Lily and Jack disappeared from their rural home on May 2, 2025. Police and countless volunteers searched the area. Some physical items connected to the family were seized and are being tested. Family statements, polygraphs, and massive amounts of video footage have been collected. A statement by the children's mother has stirred the public and been described by some as a confession, but official confirmation of a criminal confession has not been released. Investigators keep telling the public that all scenarios remain open while they test forensic results and follow leads. That careful message is, in itself, the responsible news of the moment. Facts only, no shortcuts to conclusions. What should every viewer take away? First, words like confession are powerful and dangerous when tossed around without context. They can shape public perception long before evidence does. Second, speculation, even when it feels urgent or satisfying, can derail serious investigative work and harm people who are already suffering. Third, the search for Lily and Jack continues because detectives, volunteers, and ordinary citizens keep working, calling tip lines, and watching for anything that might help. Finally, the immediate priority must remain simple and compassionate. Bring these children home, and let the evidence guide the path to truth and justice. The case of Lily and Jack Sullivan is far from over. While the public sorts headlines, investigators are in the lab, courts are processing authorizations, and search teams remain ready to respond to a credible lead. If you know anything, even something that sounds small or insignificant, contact the Northeast Nova Scotia Major Crime Unit or Crime Stoppers. Small details add up. And if you follow this story, do it with care. Prioritize confirmed information, avoid spreading unverified claims, and keep pressure on the right people in the right way. We'll keep following this closely. If you want more updates as they come in, please like this video and subscribe, and remind your friends to turn on notifications so no development is missed. The heart of this story is 2 children who deserve to be found, and in the end, finding them is what matters most.